I'm Troy Schultz, the anti-gamer slayer.
And I'm Dieathon. This is Final Fight.
If there's one genre I never get tired of, it's the classic arcade beat 'em up. There's just something timeless about walking to the right and punching everything in your way. So for this review, I teamed up with my friend and game design partner, Dieathon, to revisit one of the most iconic entries in the genre, Final Fight. And before we talk about how it plays, it's worth looking at how this game almost wasn't Final Fight at all. You see, Capcom didn't originally set out to make Final Fight as we know it.
The Final Fight characters would eventually be in Street Fighter, but, well, it's no coincidence the characters are kind of like Ryukin and other knockoffs of Street Fighter characters, and that's because the game was originally supposed to be a direct sequel to the original Street Fighter from 1987, Street Fighter 89. But once Technos Japan's Double Dragon exploded in popularity, Capcom pivoted hard, shifting the project from a one-on-one fighter to a full-blown side-scrolling beat-em-up. The game was designed by Akira Nishitani and produced by Yoshiki Okamoto, who openly cited Double Dragon 2, The Revenge, as a major influence. Early trade shows builds even promoted the game as a Street Fighter sequel, with one character being openly described as a former Street Fighter. I feel they had a decent idea to switch Final Fight out of the Street Fighter ties, since the game felt nothing like it. The grittiness of the streets, the unthreatening enemies, it combines to really show you why it's its own entry instead of a Street Fighter sequel. I mean, imagine turning the camera in Street Fighter 90 degrees and angle the walking the hell out of dodging Ryu's Hadoukens to beat up random thugs and... See what I mean?
Aside from both being violent, they're almost nothing alike. So Capcom, in a rare moment of marketing clarity, renamed it the Final Fight right before the release. Like what Dieathon said, the team even considered making Ryu and Ken the playable heroes. But the idea was dropped in favor of a new story, a gritty cinematic rescue mission. After a gang kidnapped the mayor's daughter, Capcom's president wanted the game designed as if it were a movie. So the dev team literally studied films to shape the pacing, staging, and action. So, is the game any good? Honestly, it depends on which version you play. But I think they're all at least playable.
I like this game because it's a real retro blast of the past, something you can play with a brother or cousin.
Me and my buddy, Dieathon, ran through the arcade version via the Capcom Beat 'em Up collection, and that's the version we'll be focusing on here. So, how good is Final Fight?
Let's dive in and find out. That freakazoid laughing at us was damned. No pun intended. Or in the American version, Thrasher. And no, it's not the Skate magazine Thrasher with woefully overcome by posers. It's just the American localization of the damned boss fight's name. Anyway, now, team damage is an offense in this game, and you can stop that by punishing enemies in a different plane to walk up and down, albeit a very small plane. You're generally gonna have a little bit of room there to avoid attacking each other, but the level is structured in standard beat 'em up format. Left to right, enemies jump, outlandish enemies, and you're kicking doors down, and they're jumping out of everywhere trying to strangle you like some sort of rat in the sewer. This is the second part of the first level. Pretty much an underground warehouse, and you start to see enemies drop more weapons, like pipes, throwing knives. Later on, you'll see some swords, and they also drop out of barrels and from enemies sometimes. Hamburgers and cooked chicken. Basically just your HP standard restorations. And with this boss fight, you can see he's a little bit of a coward. He goes behind the gate of the subway and sends his lackeys at you. There's also some sort of, I can't tell if it's a prisoner or some naked tribalman with a loincloth parading around, so basically he's sending the whole armada of a bunch of weirdos to try to attack you while he's hiding behind a subway grate. Some real manly move. And he whistles them in, like they're all under his command, and this is actually an introduction to one of the worst types of enemies is the pyromaniacs, dressed in red, looking like Daredevil, which this actually might be the streets of like Hell's Kitchen, but overall, this boss fight was in the bag, easy, simple. And next is the subway. There's a pink hair girl that starts to appear around this time. She looks like a promiscuous thug, but that's actually Poison. The inspiration for Poison, at least, from Street Fighter, like 4, 5, and 6, they all have her. She's an iconic character still to this date because a lot of people are enticed by her features. But that just ties into the Street Fighter comparisons we made from earlier in the video. And if you notice, we actually took down a Andre the Giant clone, a ripoff from the wrestler. His name in this game is Andore Jr. He appears a lot, and later there is a, won't spoil it, a boss fight. And there's a lot of inspiration you'll see from this game. It's a very fun game, and if you know the references, it even makes it a little more interesting. But what I find interesting is this level. It's a basic subway, moving train, but if you start to pay attention to the details, it all starts making a little more sense. All the windows are broken, all the doors are scratched up. There's pretty much just weapons and barrels lying around with food in it. Like it's some sort of hospice for the Mad Gear Gang's conglomerate thuggery, and it's almost like the Batman or like the Joker, where the city streets are just absolutely chaos. But the street gang that we face in this game, the Mad Gear Gang, actually has solid inspiration for each little thug that you fight. Like rock musicians, Axl Rose, Slash, Gene Simmons, Sid Vicious, Billy Idol, and King Diamond. Roxy Music, The Damned, and they're all rock-inspired characters. And then, of course, Andre the Giant, Andore, Hugo Andore. And if you were to go listen to the soundtrack, please look up the Sega CD OST, because every other port has some... It's just trash. It sounds like a broken harpist chord. Like, just listen to this CD version just for a snippet. Now you can see the harpist chord comparison. Like, I didn't even want to have to say that, but yeah, over that. I'm over it. So this boss, you don't want to get frustrated and yell this boss's name out. The dude's name is Sodom.
Okay, hold up. What even is thematically supposed to be happening here? Because first off, they named this guy Sodom. And I don't know if Capcom's 1989 dev team knew English, but that name does not have good connotations in English. I'm not getting into it here, but yeah, very bold choice.
So, to get an easier time with this boss, you're going to want to punch him, hit him with a jumping kick, stand on his sword that he drops, because yes, he has a sword in the wrestling ring, and then rinse, repeat. You're welcome. I'm gonna save you a lot of trouble. We didn't really do this though because we didn't know, but I looked it up.
Okay, so after level 2, we walk out the subway and see this perfectly good vehicle sitting there. And for 1 second, we're like, hey, maybe we can hotwire this thing and go rescue Jessica faster.
Break the car, 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 break the car,
break it,
break the car,
break the car, break the car, break the car, break the car, break the car,
break the car.
Then this mad gear guy runs up and is like,
oh my god.
And look, we know it's a mad gear car. We know it belongs to the bad guys. So we had two options. Steal the car or break the car. Obviously, we chose the morally correct option. Break the car, break the car, break the car!
Break it. Let's get into who made the soundtrack. 7 sound composers. Manami Matsume, Yoshihiro Sakaguchi, Harumi Fujita, Junko Tamiya, Yasuaki Fujita, Hiromitsu Takaoka, and Yoko Shimomuro. The SNES version was ported by Toshio Kajino. What are you doing, man? Come on. Toshio, man, you can't be doing that port. You had one job, man. One job. It's almost, you know what, I'm gonna say it. It's
Also, can we talk about this for a second? Because halfway through level 2, an Andore just strolls up, grabs player 1 in a chokehold, and drags them off like a sack of potatoes. And what does player 2 do? Do they help? Do they fight? Do they even try to save their friend? Nope. They just casually walk behind them as they're being kidnapped, like, yeah bro, I'll come too. What is this logic? Imagine watching your buddy get kidnapped in real life and your reaction is, oh cool, field trip. Like, player 2 doesn't even throw a punch. He doesn't yell, he doesn't panic, he just silently agrees to participate in whatever WWE fever dream Mad Gear has planned. Peak arcade storytelling.
This is the boss ring with Eddie E, who is a cop, and just like most of them, a dirty cop. And annoying as all hell. He uses a revolver, a 6-shooter, to mow you down, even can't get a decent grapple move on you in the ring. He's really just on some shit. And it makes you lose your patience, but not as much as the next level. This is the absolute worst level. Some sort of really hazardous OSHA violation going on, man. Like, going on in this industrial factory, fire spewing out of the ground. Like, what are they even developing to have fire coming out this grated? It's just screaming that he's giving OSHA violation much.
And of course, because this is a beat 'em up, we get the mandatory elevator level. You know the drill. Small fighting space, enemies dropping in from the ceiling, and you're trying to survive by beating the ever-loving tar out of everybody. You also have to fight the boss Rulento here, and all I will say about the fight itself is that it sucks. I will let Jared explain why it sucks.
Much like the boss's name implies, really relentless. Bye-bye, Relento.
And look, I know he's not actually dead. He shows up in Final Fight 2, and he shows up in Street Fighter. The man is basically grenade-proof. I don't know how he survives 6 explosions at point-blank range, but apparently, Rulento is built different. Next is the Bay Area. And honestly, this stage looks like it came straight from a Streets of Rage game. Damn, saying that makes me want to play Streets of Rage. Anyway, one thing I have to point out in this level is the dog. I freaking love this dog in the background, who's just cheering us on. Like, I think this dog is awesome, and if I were mayor, I'd put him in my office. Then we hit the bathroom area, and yeah, there are some very adult words graffitied on the walls, like sexy. Clearly, this section wasn't made for kids, but fear not, we're gonna censor this ourselves. Hey, I said I'd censor it. I never said I wouldn't advertise ourselves. Moving on, you can also spot motorcycles parked in the background, which is a really cool little detail. Then we reach the boss of this stage, right as the sun is coming up. Abigail. This guy can deal a ton of damage if you're not careful. Our strategy was simple. Let one player tank everything, and then when Abigail starts beating the life out of him, the other player will come in and combo him. It's not elegant, but it works. Next, we get to Uptown, the final level, where Metro City's high society lives. We climb a massive high-rise, beat the ever-loving crap out of everyone we see, and eventually reach this fancy rooftop garden. And then falling chandeliers. Seriously, these people here are rich. You'd think they could afford better nails that actually hold things up. Then finally we reach Belger, the big boss of Mad Gear, who has never been mentioned until this exact moment. And despite being in a wheelchair, this guy moves fast, like super fast, and he's armed with what looks like a multi-shot crossbow. I'm not entirely sure what the weapon is, but it fires a bunch of bolts and does a ridiculous amount of damage. As my buddy Jared can tell you, This boss is hard as hell.
Yeah, I guess Belger has so much money, he doesn't even need legs. He has a wheelchair, he hops out, he's like crip walking. Oh, I can shoot you down if I want to. But anyway. Yeah, this boss hard as hell. You really can't get into any fortunate situation with him. Unless you know his attack patterns like a speedrunner, you know, pixel by pixel. He's just very all over the place, does a lot of damage, shoots a lot of bolts, and can stun lock you. Stun lock you almost like Relento. But he's Belger. And seriously, annoying.
Eventually, Cody, Hager, and Guy knock Belger out the window. And Hager and Jessica are reunited, and we get a nice little ending cutscene. Then we get to the final scene with Cody and Guy. And let me be clear, Cody is being stupid here. Guy is the smart one. Cody starts walking off with Guy, probably to go find more people to beat up, and Jessica runs into him to talk to him. Cody just ignores her, so Guy does what any good friend would do. He punches Cody and combos him right in front of Jessica, forcing him to stop long enough for them to have their moment and kiss. The music plays, and that's the end of the game.
Okay, so first off, if I was Cody and you were Guy, would you do the same? Slap me to get me straight and talk to her like I was tripping out?
Oh, without a doubt. I'd absolutely punch you back to your senses. Especially if she was a hottie like Jessica.
Okay, good. That's what I thought.
So, what did I think of Final Fight? Honestly, I had an absolute blast. I love beat 'em ups, and Final Fight is a really solid one. Sure, by modern standards, some people might call it basic, but sometimes basic is exactly what you want. It's straightforward, it's satisfying, and it delivers that classic arcade punch, everything energy, that sometimes is exactly what you're looking for. While it works fine as a single player game, I highly recommend playing it with someone else. Your spouse, your partner, a friend, whoever you can drag onto the couch. Like most beat 'em ups, the real magic happens in multiplayer. That's where the chaos, the teamwork, and the laughter kicks in. Jared, what did you think of the experience?
Okay, so I think this game is very fun. Sit around, play with your bro, play with your family, play with your girl, and you're gonna have a decent retro time warp in this day and age. Yes, back in the day, it must have been a blast if you had the CD version, especially. I can't really, nothing goes wrong for me except for the damn music, and I guess some of the platforming. Whenever there was stuff to dodge, like the fires and the OSHA hazard level, but yeah, overall very good game. I give it a solid play it and experience it for yourself and you'll find out. I give it a solid thumbs up.
Before we wrap up, I think it's only fair that we talk about the ports. Me and Jared played the version included in the Capcom Beat 'em Up Arcade Collection, which is a straight port of the arcade original, and includes online multiplayer. It's probably the most accessible version today, and I'll put it right in the middle of the pack as far as how good it is compared to other ports. Because, despite being an arcade perfect port, it's not the best version. For me, the best version is the Sega CD version. It was the first one I ever played, and it still holds up incredibly well. It includes voice acting, yes, full voice acting for all the cutscenes.
The newly elected mayor and former Street Fighter Mike Hager plans to change. At the center of the problem is the huge gang known as Mad Gear. Mad Gear controls all of the major criminal activity in the city. Mike Hager here. Hee hee hee, Mr. Hager. So pleased to make your acquaintance.
A fun time attack mode, which is just really fun. I love playing this mode. And of course, it has the best soundtrack, as Jared has been reminding you all throughout this review. The Super Nintendo and arcade soundtracks are not that great, but the Sega CD soundtrack, amazing. I'll let you take a listen to my personal favorite track from the Sega CD version, which is this one right here. Look, I just had to show it off. Seriously, it's my favorite track. And if you have the option and have someone nearby to play multiplayer with, I highly recommend the Sega CD version. But if you need online to play multiplayer, the Capcom Beat 'em Up Collection is still a solid choice. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the Super Nintendo version, which really sucks. It was the first port of this game released, and released very early in the Super Nintendo's lifespan. And it's playable, but that's about all I can say about it. In the original release, Guy is completely missing, there is no multiplayer, the music is awful. I mean, even worse than the arcade version. Seriously, listen to this crap. And the censorship is so heavy, it's almost comedic. Roxy and Poison were replaced with Sid and Billy, because apparently Nintendo didn't want you punching women. And Damned and Sodom were renamed Thrasher and Katana. There are so many changes that if I listed them all, we would be here all day. Funny enough, they did eventually add Guy, but only by releasing a separate version called Final Fight Guy, where Cody is written out of the story entirely because he's training in Japan. Why they couldn't just make a version with all three characters is beyond me. And to top it off, every Super Nintendo version omits the industrial stage, which I'm gonna say is not a big loss. And that's about everything I have to say about Final Fight. It's a pretty amazing game, even if the music is subpar in most versions. The gameplay is fantastic, especially in multiplayer, and it absolutely earns its place as one of the defining beat-em-ups of its era. Let me know your thoughts on Final Fight in the comments. Your memories, your favorite version, whatever you grew up with, and be sure to check out Dieathons' channel. He's my partner in game design and the main sound director for the studio. Links to his channel, and our games, and the Discord server are all in the description. And with that, this is Troy Schultz, the Anti-Gamer Slayer, signing off!